Mission Sustainability is an initiative led by WION, which lies at the core of what we do and what we believe in, leaving behind a cleaner, greener future for the generations to come. No action, not an option. That is the mantra that Mission Sustainability actually wants to propagate. And with me are very special guests, two sustainability champions, Andrea Pereira and Ritu Malhotra. Now, they both have done their bit and have been bringing about a mammoth impact as far as the field of sustainability is concerned. I want to begin by talking to Andrea first about the Give Back initiative that you've launched. It's a sustainability powerhouse. Tell us more about what made you change your course of life when it comes to the corporate life that you were leading. You've been a part of that for nearly 3 decades, and then you decided to focus more on projects that involve environmental impact, social impact. Tell us more about that.
Thank you so much, Molly. It's a pleasure to be here with you. So I think that started with my aim to really create impact. And I was highly influenced by my daughter. So my eldest daughter, Anna, she's 23, and she studied sociology and sustainability. And throughout her journey on sustainability, that I just had this aha moment that the kind of impact I was creating in a corporate environment, of course it was huge, but there was so much more that could be done if we really focus our efforts and dedicate our lives to impact. So that, I think that I need to thank her actually, because the aha moment came from a reverse mentoring, as you say, right? The new generations really, yelling for this change, because we are actually borrowing their planet, right? It's their planet. We need to make sure we give them a chance to make this work. So Give Back is a result of this aim, right, to do good, to make sure companies understand. Of course, philanthropy is okay and it has to be done, right? We have so many humanitarian causes around the world. But this is about every company understanding that they need to leave a positive impact in the environment and in the communities where they operate. It's not optional. That comes also to an individual perspective. How do I do good? How do I make sure I live in balance with the surrounding? And then in that journey, after starting Give Back in Portugal, I had the immense, I would say it was a strike of, it's not luck. Yes, it's luck, but it's more than that. To meet this amazing woman doing the incredible work she's doing around education. And of course, there's no chance I couldn't fall in love with that and join this. So my story is one of, yes, I was creating impact as an executive and in the corporate world, but there's a lot more we have to do. So raising our voices towards sustainability is a must.
And Ritu, you've been leading the climate education efforts in India through the ARC initiative. Very interestingly, it involves integrating SDG with the school curriculum, and that's an integral part of actually making sure that every individual has a sense of purpose. So tell us more about what you do at ARC and why you believe that climate education is so important.
Thank you for that question. We started about 3 years ago, and I have been in publishing and in education. I think the moment of change came when I was teaching middle school students, and I realized that they were living in a bubble of their own. Around that time, I got introduced to the SDGs, and I could immediately feel the power of that framework. I created some content around it, introduced it to my students, and I noticed immediate change. So they became more engaged, involved, their socio-emotional learning was enhanced, and I could see that they were turning more compassionate and more empathetic to the problems of the world. So that's what triggered the desire in me to take it to a larger scale. I talked to my partner Anit Gupta, and we thought that it was a leap of faith for us, that it was a compelling desire. We really wanted to do this, take it to a larger scale. So we just started very small. We launched this curriculum for schools with one school, and that was too at the beginning, not the right time to do it. It was at the beginning of the pandemic. And we started out with one school, just a leap of faith, a lot of passion in us to bring this to the world. And here we have landed. I was invited to Germany last year in recognition of the efforts we were doing towards education for sustainability. I had the opportunity to go and meet Andrea in Portugal during that time, and we immediately clicked. So we realized that what we started out here in one school, actually we were able to unleash the power of it. When we joined hands, we were able to take it to a larger scale. The whole world is ready for it, and there is a lot of power in collaboration.
Right.
That is exactly what we are trying to do through this collaboration. Yes. Educate children about what's happening in different parts of the world, what they can learn from each other, and it works both ways, for them and for us.
And yes, and very interesting how the two of you have joined hands and are leading this collaboration. And at the very heart of what you do lies this cause for a shift in the mindset when it comes to people. What do you think is the best way to do that, to make people realize, to have that sense of purpose?
So we always say that if we can equip the next generation of leaders with a lens of sustainability so that they live, work, and do everything from a sustainability perspective, then our mission will be, and I have goosebumps, then our mission will be really accomplished. Because, and I had a friend last week calling me, he leads the business school of the University of Lisbon, and he was really celebrating the fact that they now have a course called Design for Sustainability. And I told him I was very sad because that meant that there's design and design for sustainability, and that shouldn't exist, right? We should all be doing things that are sustainable. So to your question, we believe that at the core of all this lies this rethinking process. How do we rethink what we do on a daily basis? It doesn't have to be huge, right? We educate one kid at a time, one school at a time, but it has to have this, this scaling effect. How do we make sure these kids look at the world from a different perspective?
And that is our philosophy. We integrate. So when we talk about sustainability curriculum in schools, it's not one extra subject children have to learn in school. It's integrated into everything they do in school. That's what Andrea is talking about, that you learn to look at things through the sustainability lens, whether you're doing maths, whether you're doing science, whether you're studying English, whether you're doing art. So the theme is sustainability, so you form that habit in your formative years, which has amazing impact on the future generation. So it's very difficult for adults to unlearn and then relearn, but it's easier to work with children and form the right habits right from the beginning, and integration is the key to it.
How exactly do you explain to the children the importance of kind of undoing the damage that unfortunately their previous generations have caused?
Unfortunately, they are going to inherit this world.
Absolutely.
Yes, which is not the ideal world for them, which we have, the damage that we have caused. But there is hope. That's what we don't want them to grow up with, this anxiety of the kind of world they're going to inherit. We want to tell them that there is hope if we take the right actions. We can not change everything, but we can bring a great amount of change with the right steps. So I think that is at the core of what we tell children. So they have to have this positive outlook. They have to have hope. It's not all doomed. It's not all ending. So we can still make things better.
And I think there are, and I've learned so much with her. So these are all her lessons.
She's known as the SDG educator of India, right?
She is. So I think there's this framework that Ritu brought that is, you not only bring awareness to the kid, right? We always say there are 3 A's, right? The first A is awareness. So a lot of kids will say SDG, but they don't really understand what that is about, right? So how do we open that box and tell them what the SDG is all about? But then there's action, right? So what can I do? How do we unleash this? And then we want these kids to be actors of sustainability in their own lives. And we also know that if they bring that home, then they are the best seed we could have in every house, right? Because then they are pushing their parents and the entire house onto practices that are simple. So you were asking how we do, it's just reframing the stories. Life is about stories. We're telling stories all the time. If we tell stories about sustainability and embedded in those stories, you have everything that the kids need to learn, then what we're doing is educating for sustainability.
Right. And let's also talk a little bit about how corporates are also realizing their responsibility. A number of steps that they've been taking around the world, and buying carbon credits is one of them. Would you think that that's the best approach, or is there an alternative that needs to be considered as well?
I love the question.
And because you've been a part of the corporate environment for so long. Yes.
I love the question because I think that, of course, buying carbon credits, it's better than doing nothing, right? Because you're doing something. Right. And we advocate always that do something, right? That's our question, that doing something is important. But I always say that we need to start on our own environment. You don't wake up in the morning and go do the bad of your neighbor, right? You do your own bad.
Absolutely.
So when we buy carbon credits, what we're doing is paying someone else to do my neighbor's bad, right? So paying someone else to do something good in a land far away, I don't know where it is. Someone is doing something, and then I go there and yeah, I mean, this is a very, I would say, conflictive concept for me.
Right.
The ideal world would be, if I'm impacting this community, what am I doing here to create positive impact as I do business? Because this is possible. There are so many companies making sure that what they do comes with a positive impact. And the positive impact is, that's why I said it's not about philanthropy. It's about making business in the right way. Right. So how do we connect companies to make sure circular economy goes beyond? There's so many stories of whatever is waste in one company becomes ingredient in the next, because this is nature, right? Waste is a concept created by humans, because in nature there's no waste. Whatever is left, right, when the tree loses their leaves during winter, those leaves become, you know, the bad for what's going to come next. So if you think about this on our economies, then we're going to be in the other side of this bridge.
And what's also unfortunate is that a lot of people feel like it's a distant threat. It does not affect them, which is absolutely unfortunate. How do you bring about that shift when it comes to making people believe and realize that it's affecting each and every person around the world, some more so than the others? And what would you say to those who still believe that climate change is a hoax, unfortunately? That's something that some of them believe.
Yes, it's sad, but it's true. A lot of people do not want to do anything about it because they think it's distant, it's not affecting them. So the realization has to dawn upon them. And it's everywhere now. Look at the natural disasters the world is facing today. So we bring their attention to these natural disasters. Interestingly, we tell them the story of the famous explorer, like we talk to children like that and teachers in schools. James Cook, when he came to invade a land and the inhabitants saw that a big ship was coming from far, they just chose to go on with what they were doing, not bothering about the big ship. And then some of them jumped into a small boat and started approaching the island. And that's when they immediately took out their weapons and started attacking them. So climate change is like that. So it is there, but we don't want to acknowledge it till it just hits us, till there are floods. Right now in Lisbon, there are storms, and we have seen unusual weather. Right, recently, right? It's hitting us. The places are getting flooded. People are having to migrate, leave places. So that's real. It's real, and it's happening, and it's now. So that is something that we can only achieve through education. So the education is a very important part of it.
And there's a phrase our business partner Anit Gupta always says, that the biggest threat to all of us is the belief that someone else will save this planet. It's on our hands to make sure.
We are that someone else.
Exactly. We are that someone else.
Yes. Let's also talk about the ways in which the governments around the world have been leading efforts. But there is a huge question mark when it comes to what they say on paper or what they pledge and what happens on the ground. The gap in the implementation, in a way. I want to ask you both, first to you, Andrea, to talk about that gap and how you think that should be closed. Are we not taking climate change seriously enough when it comes to governments and our leaders?
I think we're not taking the change fast enough.
Right.
I think leaders understood already that they need to do something.
And no action is not an option, like we at WION have been saying.
Right? Yes. But I think that it had to be a lot more intense and a lot more urgent and a lot more, immediate. As Ritu was saying, we had all, the fires across Europe this year, and now, everywhere is flooding. Lisbon was flooding last week. So the climate change is just hitting everybody's door. Yeah. So how do we take action faster? So one thing is faster, and the European Union is taking measures, right? In 3 years, every company will have to, with the financial, reports, they will also have to publish a report on what they are doing in terms of impact. So then there comes the second challenge. How do we track? How do we make sure what we're doing is truly something that everybody is doing? And I'll tell you a short story. In my previous work, we used to plant a lot of trees, right? But planting trees, I mean, it's not only about planting the tree. You need to make sure that tree is going to stay alive over the years. And then you're going to need to make sure you plant the right tree, because if you're planting the wrong tree, it doesn't make any sense. And why are you planting that tree there? Is to keep the water in the soil? What is the role of that tree in that specific environment? So the actions that you were saying, that's why when I got in touch with the ARC's work and whatever, whenever we take our work into the communities, educating the kids, knowing that that is real, and then looking at the results of our tracking as we're looking right now, when kids tell us, I've changed the way I live my life, that is amazing.
I want to also understand a little bit more about your initiative, ARC, and the path that it's taken so far, and your collaboration with Give Back, of course, has added a sense of purpose.
So as I said, we started out, it was just driven by passion. So we wanted to bring this change in the society. So we started out with a set of books, with one school, and we thought, let's try and see what the impact is. But as we started working with more and more schools, we realized that they were ready, they had the appetite for a lot more. So we had to connect them. They wanted to impact the communities around them. So they wanted to work with and that is the real impact. It has to have a ripple effect. It cannot stay contained within like one institution. So that is the desired impact. So we started doing more. So we started conducting workshops with teachers. We started running Global Sustainability Awards. So we've just concluded the 3rd edition of it last week, where we invite schools, teachers, and children to talk about their efforts, and we give them this platform towards sustainability and how they're impacting communities around them. So there is a special category of awards on the impact they're creating on communities. So, so that is the kind of impact we wanted to see, and it's coming, and not just from the urban areas, from the interiors of India. The stories are so moving about how like small institutions which do not have the complete knowledge or the finances to impart anything special to children are still inspiring the children to bring that change in the communities. Because we can't really depend on governments to tackle all the social problems. There are so many social problems, till everyone is involved, till everyone is motivated, it cannot be solved. So that's the kind of impact we envisioned, and we are happy to see that we are getting somewhere.
Yes, and also this unfortunate air pollution blanket that we see, which dominates discussions every year. It's the same story on repeat. Are we not taking that issue seriously enough?
So these are the social problems I was talking to you about. So we need to create a breed of social entrepreneurs. Yes. And these ideas, children are full of ideas and innovations, so they need that encouragement. They should be able to build a living out of these ideas. They should not just remain at the discussion forums and then they move on to do something more lucrative with their lives. So we have to give them that path where they can launch these ideas. So we want to make them social entrepreneurs, where they come up with solutions for air pollution, and children have some very inspiring ideas and stories to share with us. So we are just trying our bit to give them that platform where they can express and get incentives to launch it at a big scale.
Just going back, I mean, Ritu described ARC's work in India so very well. I think the connection with Give Back is when they started to see the result of what they were doing, right? And I saw everything that was being done. I said, there's clearly something here that we need to take out of India and into the world. And if we think about, there's 1.5 billion kids being educated around the world. 300 million of those are in India, but you have a lot of kids around the world that need access to these too.
Absolutely.
And out of all these, half of them study in 3 languages, in Portuguese, in Spanish, and in English. So if we can have this content translated into these 3 languages, and we can take this concept around the world, that's when, you know, Give Back comes in and brings in the collaboration tools to make sure these kids are not only living sustainability, but they are talking sustainability with other schools, right? How do we amplify and scale this effect and make sure we can put together, as we did already, right? This year, over 15 countries were present in the award, in the Global Sustainability Awards. We had a school from the interior of Brazil. It was very interesting because we had Vinit presenting, you know, the prize, and all of a sudden he said, Andrea, I can't say this name. Can you come here and just say it in Portuguese? But having the school from Brazil, we had a whole school coming from Nepal, beautiful, you know, community coming up representing their country and receiving the awards. As Ritu was saying, this is just the spark of something much bigger that we need to create.
Right, right. And I have to say the two of you are collaborating and actually making sure that we leave behind a cleaner, greener future for our generations. That is something that is the urgent need of the hour. As we discussed, it's not a distant threat, and no action is not an option. So thank you very much for being here and telling us more about those great initiatives, the efforts that you've been undertaking, and how they have already gone a long way in instilling awareness, which is the most important tool, I think, in that direction. Thanks very much, Ritu and Andrea, for being here. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the updates on the move.